right, I have a challenge here to myself that I'm taking on from Melissa Desbian, who posted on the Poppa Paints Facebook group a painting she did, a wonderful painting of a shell in the water. And let me show you that posting. Let me get this going here. All right, there we go. Now there's Melissa's painting, and she says, "Hi all, any ideas how to make the water texture shiny? I thought of wax, but want to check in for any other ideas." Okay, so the question I had was, do you mean painting it to look shiny, or just simply putting like a varnish over the whole painting? And if it's, and I think I mentioned this in the video you're about to watch, but varnish, just be careful that it's a non-yellowing varnish, if that's what you meant. But I think you mean to make the water look more like it's flowing. And I can see by the beautiful brush strokes and textures that you've done, it has that look already. But maybe it doesn't show up as well in a photograph. Maybe when you see it in person, you really get the feeling of flowing water. That's what it looks like to me. But if you want it to have that extra little shine, you can do what I'm about to show you with paint. I would say if that looks like it might be acrylic paint. So maybe you can paint over it with acrylic. You gotta be very dainty and very careful. But I wanna show you how I did it using Procreate. And that's kind of my way of experimenting. Like if I have an idea for a picture, I do this all the time, by the way, with the children's illustrations. I will work everything out digitally before I put anything down on paper. Now, the stuff I do on the Poppa Paints is not like that. I mean, on Poppa Paints, it's just, I just am having fun painting, and hopefully you are too. So let me show you the video I prepared of myself taking Melissa's painting and making the water, hopefully, to look shiny, okay? And let's do that right now. Okay, well, let's take on a challenge. And this is from one of the posts on the Poppa Paints Facebook group. And it's from Melissa Desbian. And Melissa asks, "Hi all, any ideas how to make the water texture shiny? I thought of wax, but want to check in for any other ideas." So, first of all, I will say that I love what you've done. Sorry, the chair is squeaky. I love what you've done, and I see maybe what I can do to help, and I'm going to do it with digital to try to show you. However, it's possible that I'm misunderstanding you, and you actually want the surface to be shiny, as in glazing it with like a glossy varnish or something. And if that's the case, that's probably what you want to do, is you want to brush on or spray on some clear, shiny finish. However, if you want the painting to actually look like flowing water, which it looks like that's what you've accomplished here, but I thought I would take your picture and mess with it a little bit, and I hope you don't mind. So I'm going to get a reference photo. So I'm using Procreate, and there's your picture, and there's your picture again. And so I want to import some other pictures that I used, that I grabbed off the internet. And let's see, maybe this one. So you see what this is in this reference photo. All it is shiny water. And I'm thinking that might help with what you have done here. So let's take that and make that smaller so we can see this bigger. And let's try to make the water look more reflective. So this is for those of you who are interested in Procreate. I'm using Procreate. I'm going to add another layer because I am sure that I'm going to mess this up. So I hope not, but I'm sure. All right, so let's first start with the color of the water. I'm going to sample the color of the water, and there it is right there. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to make it very light, or almost white, but not quite completely white. And it looks like you've used acrylic paint. So let's see if I can find something in here that looks acrylic. Or is that watercolor? I think that's acrylic. It really wouldn't matter. The only thing that would matter is if it was watercolor, then you would want to do the white areas from the paper. What do I don't see acrylic on here? Am I missing it? Oh, wet acrylic right there. Oh, I see. There's two acrylics in here. Okay, well, see, I don't ever use acrylic. All right, so now I have my brush. Let's get the size of the brush. Let's get it really kind of medium sized. And let's take some of these areas here and let's paint over them. Let's make, you see how those shapes are there? They're kind of ragged. And now that I'm looking at it, I think maybe I do need pure white. I think maybe pure white is the answer here. So I'm just going to try to grab, and I'm following the lines that you already have on here. You see? You already have these lines on here. So I'm just kind of going on the ridges of what you've already established, just to see if we can make it look a little, as you say, shiny. It's interesting how water reflects light and dances all over it, and even the bottom of the beach, the sand, you know, the bottom of the ocean. It's only a quarter of an inch deep, right? But it's still the bottom of the ocean. So I'm just following the lines that you actually have here already, and it almost looks like lightning if you think about it. Just like lightning bolts. I'm just grabbing some of these lines that you already have on it, bring it up to the shell, and see if we can get that shiny look that you're looking for. The other thing is, and you've already done this, you've already got the water going around the shell. Okay, now right now it's starting to look like lightning bolts, but hopefully we'll be able to make it look like water. And I'm using actual water, as you see over here, actual photograph of water, to be my guide, my reference, so that I'm not really making it up. I'm following all your lines. I'm sort of doing what the... Now, if this water is flowing past it, we want to make that too. And I have another photograph I'm going to use for the water flowing past. I'm going to use another reference photo. So you see what I'm doing with my stylus, which is my brush in this case. I am just connecting all these areas to make it shiny. And now you see, there's one more maybe. Okay, I think that's good enough. There. Now what I want to do is take some of them and make them a little bit bolder, a little bit wider and thinner. In some places it almost looks like, you know, those cartoon versions of the nervous system, when you see medical pictures of the nerves in our bodies. It kind of looks like this. There we go. Just make some of them a little wider. Oops, I didn't get this side very good, did I? Okay, now we have sort of have that look. Now I'm just going to get some lighter areas. I'm going to actually add some darker areas also to this. And I think if we put a shadow on the shell, that might help also. So let's do another layer for the shadow on the shell. I'll go ahead and use a multiply layer to make it a little bit easier on myself. And let's say that the shell is slightly blue. The shadow, I mean, is slightly blue, and it's coming over here. Just a little bit of shadow on this side, maybe. And I like the word pray on there. Yes, I do believe in prayer. I have a prayer story. I have more than one prayer story. Can I tell you my healing story? I hope this doesn't offend anybody. But to be honest, when I've always believed in God, so let's get that out of the way. But I wasn't always sure that I believed in, like, prayer for healing. I always wondered about it. Well, I went through a period of my life where for some reason my knee on my right leg was hurting super bad. I mean, really bad. All right, I'm going to take this blue and make it a little bit darker. So my knee was hurting really bad, and I lived with it. Every time I drove anywhere, I had to. I literally had to take my foot and put it into the passenger section. I know that's kind of hard to do nowadays because you have a console in the way, but anyway, my leg hurt so bad, and one day I was in church with my mother, and the pastor of the church said to everybody that we were going to do a prayer, a healing prayer. Now, this wasn't one of those churches where they always do this kind of thing, so it was unusual that they would have such a thing. But so the pastor said, if you have some place on your body that is hurting, rest your hand on it, and then we'll say a prayer. So I thought, well, what do I have to lose, you know? So I put my hand on my knee, and the pastor said a prayer, and I prayed along silently. I didn't say anything out loud. And then I got back in my car after the service was over. Well, I took my mom home, of course. That was back in the days. After my father died, I was taking my mother to church all the time. And I got back in my car, and that's when my knee hurt the most, by the way. It's when I was driving. So I was back in my car, and sure enough, my knee started hurting. And I thought, well, I guess that didn't work. All right. I am not kidding with this next part. About 3 days later, I'm driving down the road, and I'm noticing my leg isn't hurting. My knee is not hurting. And I realized the prayer worked. I realized it worked. So there's my prayer story. That's the whole thing. There's nothing else to it. All right, so now we have a little bit of a shadow on the shell. All I did was I just kind of washed over it with like a light wash. If it was real paint, it was like a light wash of blue on the shell itself, and then also on the water around the shell. And now I think the only thing else I want to do is I want to add a little more, some of these white areas around these. Is it working? Is it not working? What's going on here? Oh, I see, I'm on the wrong layer. I have to be on this layer. Just a little more, a couple of areas where Maybe the water is just a little bit lighter underneath the surface. So yes, I appreciate the pray thing, and I have other prayer stories of my own. I wish I could think of one. Oh, I have one. I have another one. When I was younger, I guess I have to tell you, I was divorced, and I just wanted to be closer to my son. So I prayed to God that I would find a house near his elementary school. That's all. I just wanted to be near him, and God is so amazing. So I went to a realtor. You would think that would have been the first thought, right? But it wasn't. That was the thought that came to me after the prayer. After the prayer, I'm telling you, there was a thought: go to a realtor. So I went to a realtor in the area where I wanted to get a house. And I said to the realtor, I just want a house near the school so that I can walk my son to school and from school. And guess what? The realtor found a house for me, like 3 blocks from the school. And every day, I would pick up my son from school with the dog, waiting at the road. He would come out the door and he would see me waiting there. And that was a blessing. All right, well, I hope I did what you were asking. It's a short video, but Melissa Desbian, I hope I did what you were asking. I don't know. Now, what you might be saying is, well, that's fine on digital, but can you do that with real paint? And I would say yes. If you take the painting that you did, that we started out with, which, by the way, let's go ahead and compare the two. Let's put these two together. Whoops, undo that. I don't want to do that. So let's get rid of that white layer, all those white layers, and that now all we have is the shadow. So you might want to start with the shadow. Let's put the shadow on first, and all that is a wash. See, there's no shadow, and there's the shadow, a little bit of shadow. Can you see that? I hope you can see that on the video. There's the shadow, there's no shadow. And then there's the little white reflective things that are in the water. And it's a beautiful painting that you've done, Melissa. And I understand the struggle or the challenge. I go through this all the time. Robin and I did a book called She Sells Seashells. It's a children's book. And I had to find a lot of reference photos. We live, just an hour and a half away from the beach, so we drove over there, and I took a lot of pictures just looking down at the water and finding some shells and putting them into the picture, and then that was my reference photos for the children's book. All right, well, I hope that helps, and thank you everybody for watching. I like using digital as a way to experiment, so that later on I can take real paint and paint a picture. All right, talk to you later.